So we used to drag it along the ground. And then we would stop and we would take turns with our filthy, dirty hands. You know, we'd put our hands in it and lick off the soup, whatever soup was on there. And we used to go past this one building where we heard these women screaming and yelling. We had no idea what it was, but we just knew it was a bad place. So we went there, we went by as fast as we could. And once we got into the kitchen, we would beg the cook to give us something to eat. And you know, we used to beg them for a potato. And sometimes they would never hand it to you. They would throw it to you on a filthy, dirty floor. I mean, you didn't care. I mean, there was no running water where you could wash it off. You just would eat it filthy, dirty. You were that hungry. And if you got a rotten potato, what I mean by rotten, if you go into a restaurant and you open up a baked potato and it's all black inside, you don't eat it. But if you're hungry, you eat that. You eat anything that is put in front of you. And how can I describe hunger to you? It's not when your stomach rumbles a little bit, you know, and you feel I'm hungry. Hunger is when you think about food and night and day, and there's nothing to eat at all. There were no chips, there were no M&Ms or anything like that, you know. And then we would get back into, one time I'm leaving the kitchen, I was eating a potato and a soldier stops me. And for no reason at all, he hits me, and I still have a mark underneath my chin, and blood was flowing, but I didn't cry because I remember the last time I cried, I was beaten. So I ran looking for my mother, and since there weren't any doctors where you could go to or any infirmaries, I mean, I had no idea that they were doing experiments, you know. And so she tore off a piece of her dress, and she urinated on it, and she applied a wet rag against my chin. There's an acid in urine that prevents infection, and that's what they used to use in the camps. And then the woman went back to work, and then in the afternoon we had our evening meal, which was a slice of bread. And I would eat mine right away, and then I would beg my mother to give me a piece of her bread. And when she didn't want to give it to me, I used to hate her for it. I wanted that piece of bread. Then I went to my aunts. I had 2 aunts there. And I wanted that bread. And you know, sometimes they gave me a little piece. Can you imagine just a slice of bread? And one of my aunts was taken for experiments. At that time, I didn't know she was taken for experiments. But they took her to one of those places where we used to pass by, where all the women was screaming and crying. And one day, a woman all dressed in white, and was a nurse, came looking for me. My aunt wanted to see me, and I don't know why they let me see her. I had the slightest idea, but I saw my aunt, and she kissed me, and then the nurse gave me a little piece of brown paper. I opened up the white paper, and there were 5 cubes of sugar. Sometimes cubes in the old days, you could still get little cubes. So I showed them to my mother, and she said, don't eat them right away. But I ate some of them, and then the rest I put in my pocket. And then in the morning I woke up, and it was gone. And so I knew somebody took it from me. So I accused the people of stealing it from me, and they all denied it. But I knew that they did, so I started stealing from them. And no matter how much I stole, little pieces of bread here and there, it still wasn't enough. I was always so hungry, always so hungry. My stay in Ravensbrück, there's two different dates, but I'll take the German date. It was July, because every time you moved, you kept an exact record. So I was moved July into Ravensbrück. I stayed until March. And in March, the Germans said, we're going to put us on a train, and then we're going to go to a camp where the men were going to be. So they put us into the train, and it was a very short ride, and we arrived at a camp called Königswusterhausen. Königswusterhausen was a sub-camp of Sachsenhausen. And the men built the new buildings, the new barracks there. And they said that the men, with my father was going to be there, my uncles. So eventually they let us out, and I ran through the mud. And I ran to the fence, and I was looking for my father. And I saw my father. And the first thing out of my mouth to him was, "Tata, I'm hungry." And he would pass me a potato. And if the potato fell in the filth and the dirt, I didn't care, I would just eat it. All the dirt. Then I ran to my uncles and begged them to give me something to eat. And every day I ran to that fence, not because I loved my father, because I knew that he was going to give me something to eat. That's the only reason why I went. And there was a little shrubbery in Arcadian Foster House, and I would sit on the ground and I would dig up the shrubbery. Something told me there was something to eat there. And I used to pull out a root that was loaded with sand, and I would just eat it. I was so hungry. I would have eaten anything. And one day we had a major roll call where we all were standing together, the men, women, and children, and the German officer in a white little jacket was coming down with a little stick that, like an orchestra leader has a little baton, and he was hitting the kids. And so my father went to the capo, which was his best friend in Lodge. He said, "Where are you taking my son?" And they said, "Sachsenhausen." And my father wanted to take my place, my uncles wanted to take my place, but they said no, they wanted children. So they loaded us up in the truck. There were some adults there, but mostly children. And I stood to the very front, and my father was crying. And I remember saying to my father, I said, "Tata, I'm going to be okay." And I moved to the front of the truck, so when the truck started moving, the fresh air was hitting my face. I finally didn't have that smell and stink around me. And we arrived in Sachsenhausen. They told us to leave the truck. They took a roll call, and they assigned us to sleeping areas. And they weren't feeding us anymore. There was no food, so I don't know what I ate. Maybe it was like if there was a leaf or I don't know. I don't remember. Did I drink water? I had to because I wouldn't be here. Was the water clean? I don't remember. I just drank something. And one day while I was in the barracks, there were older men there, and they were taking away the floorboards. And they took me along with them. So we surmised that they were afraid that I might turn them into the Germans. So I remember laying underneath the barracks. It was very, very tight. I couldn't move, and I was just laying there. How many days I laid there, I really don't know. It couldn't have been a very long time because your system wouldn't survive X number of days without any liquids. Who could without food. But I was told that I had to be laying there in a state of shock, just dying. When we heard people yelling and screaming, "We're free, we're free, we're free." It was April the 22nd, 1945. Of course, I didn't know at that time what it was. And I had no idea who was liberating us. It was the 3rd Russian Army, and they were handing out food. And I grabbed as much as I could in my little hands, and I started eating as fast as I could. And I had these horrible, horrible pains, and that's all I remember. So what was going on? All over Germany, the Americans were liberating, the English were liberating, and they saw these poor people that, skeletons that were giving them food. And when you don't eat for long periods of time, your system can't absorb it. So a lot of people just died. Everybody was, they thought they were helping them, but they really weren't, but they had no idea, The smartest ones were the Brits. They used to give everybody oatmeal, and just a little oatmeal. So anyway, the next thing that I know is, it had to be, well, I don't know how many days I laid there. It could have been maybe 1 day, or 2 days, 3 days. I really don't know. The next one would have been 8 days, because on April the 30th, my 2 uncles were liberated by the Russians. And my uncle went to the commanding officer and he said, "Our nephew is in Sachsenhausen." So they gave him a driver, and they came looking for me, and they started going through all the barracks. And now this is what they told me. They started going through all the barracks, and they couldn't find me anywhere. And so they started going through the piles of dead bodies. Because what happened was that he just passed out. There weren't any funerals, you know, or anything like that. They would just throw you in a pile, and then they would dig a hole somewhere and put everybody in and cover you up. So they started going through these piles of dead bodies. And the next thing that I remember is somebody was rolling me, and I opened my eye, and it was my uncle, and that's all I remember. And the next time I woke up, I was in a camp, and of course it was Wusterhausen, and I was being fed soup. That's the only thing that my sister could absorb, was soup. I used to lay there, defecate, urinate. I was a skeleton. Now the Russian commandant, you know, the Russians didn't like the Germans, and they didn't like the Jews either. But he must have taken pity on me because he made sure that we had a piece of meat, fresh meat, every day, or every other day, so we could make soup. So you had to kill a cow, kill a horse, who knows. And that's what I had. And finally, when I got better, my uncle said, "Why don't you go and thank the commandant?" So I said, "Okay," you know, I went over. I knocked on the door, and this man opens the door, and he's got these funny-looking boots and these funny-looking pants. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he picked me up and he hugged me. And I was able to eat with him every day. So I used to come and eat with him every day. But, you know, I think he must have liked the idea because I used to eat with my hands. You know, I didn't know what a knife and fork were. And so, after a period of time, my uncle went to the commandant and said to him, "Look, we want to go back to Poland." So he gave us a wagon, like one of these covered wagons, like here in the United States, you know, and the people are going out to the west. He loaded it with food and 2 horses, and we proceeded on back to Poland. And I think it's maybe 400 miles from Sachsenhausen, from Wusterhausen to Poland. How many days it took, I have the slightest idea. We got to our beautiful home, and there was a Polish family in there, and they said, "This is our home," and they said, "You get out." So we went to our factory in Poland, which is still there. I mean, it's just vacant land with a factory sitting on there. And the caretaker wouldn't give us a room, so my uncle said, take the 2 horses and give us a room. So they gave us a room. We wanted to see what members of the family said on. And one day, I'm sitting on the sidewalk, and I see this man walking really slowly. It was my father. And I ran over to him, Tata, and he used to pick me up. But there was no reaction from him whatsoever. So we went back to the factory, and my father, as sick as he was, he saw what was going on, that Poland was turning communist, and he wanted to leave. So he went looking for a little box that he hid, and in the box were pictures, 52 pictures that were down at the Holocaust Museum, my birth certificate, and his papers, and the box was loaded with jewelry. And with some of the jewelry, he bribed a couple of Russian officers to smuggle us out of Poland back into Germany. And as we're getting into the truck, I'm getting into the truck, and my father's getting into the truck, and then I, "Mother, aren't you coming in? Aren't you coming with us?" And that's when they told me that she wasn't my mother, that she was my aunt. And I wouldn't talk to her, I wouldn't talk to my father. I was very angry, I was very upset. And we proceeded on to Germany. And in the middle of the night, the truck stopped. And the Russians made a hot cup of tea, and they poured this white liquid into it. It was vodka. And at the age of 7.6 or 7.75, somewhere around there, I really don't know, alcohol became a very good friend to me. And we landed in Hanover. And why was Hanover? Because that was controlled by the Brits. And my uncle's younger brother, Joseph, who studied medicine in Switzerland, was a doctor in London. So word reached out for him, and he came, and arrangements were made for me to go to England. But while I was in Hanover, every day, or every week, I used to get a package from UNESCO, I believe, and then every day we used to get a ticket so we could have a hot meal. And our hot meals was always the same: sauerkraut, potatoes, hot dogs, and beer. And can you imagine eating it with your hands? It's not very easy, you know. But I was like an animal. I was just like an animal. If somebody would say to me, "You're eating too fast," or I would give them such a look that I could kill. You know what I mean? Leave me alone. I gotta eat. And so May of 1947, I was 9 years of age. My father put me on a train, and I landed in Bremerhaven. And somebody was waiting there for me. And the next day, in the morning, I was in England. And I couldn't speak English. I spoke Polish and German fluently. I urinated in my pants, and I was still eating with my hands. So my poor aunt was in for a shock of her life when I arrived there. And I was not a very nice, I was crazy, I was nuts. I was an animal, that's what I was. My father, in the meantime, came to the United States in 1949, and now he wants to bring me over. And we had no idea because they said there was no quotas for survivors. So, but that was not so. I had to wait till 1952 before I was able to come to the United States. We even changed our name to Montrose. Rosenberg is Jewish. Montrose isn't Jewish, right? It doesn't sound Jewish, but it didn't work. So in 1952, I came to the USA. So my uncle put me on a ship called the De Grasse, and it was a French ship. And in those days, you went first class, second class, and steerage, and he put me in steerage, you know. But that's okay because I never saw so much food in my life. I mean, the French. I ate and I threw up and I ate and I threw up for 5 days. I never saw this. I couldn't stop eating. I couldn't stop eating. So I arrived in the United States and I lived in New York City, and my drinking continued for many, many years. Not very pleasant years, very hard years. And the rage and hate that I had was unbelievable. And of course, when I drank, it really came out. So I wasn't a very nice person for many years. And finally, in 1981, it finally dawned on me, with the help of my wife, who has since departed, that I needed help. I was 43 years of age, and I couldn't understand. To me, an alcoholic was somebody that lived in the streets. And I didn't live in the street. I lived in a beautiful apartment and made lots of money. And so I couldn't get into my Polish head, that you don't have to be you don't have to be an alcoholic to be in the street. So eventually, I went into a 12-step program. And it's 35 years since I've had any alcohol. And I bring up the alcohol because I see a lot of young people here, and I know they all experiment with it, and you just be careful, be very, very careful, because once you get on that wheel, it's very hard to get off of it. And I was very fortunate again that I was able to quit, and stay off. But the whole secret is that you have to change everything about yourself. You have to become another person. So it's 35 years of being sober. When you hear people and they come in and say, well, I haven't had a drink and I'm sober. No, it doesn't work like that. Sober is time. This I must learn. Over a period of time you become sober. But life is working very nicely, I hope. And I want to tell you that some people here will know what the smell of death smells like, because you had that experience but you didn't know it, you had it. When you're sitting in a dentist's office, and he's drilling on your teeth. And nowadays with high tech, you don't smell it. But sometimes, when the water isn't hitting at the right time, there's an odor that comes from that tooth. And that's what death, that's what these places smell like. It's a smell that has never left me. I was at my dentist about 4 years ago, and I said, oh wow, I'm back again, you know? Anyway, I thank you so much, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I hope you have questions, because I'm supposed to talk for an hour, and if I told you any more stuff, then it wouldn't be my story. Yes? Yes?
The movies that we make about your stories and people's stories, do you find that they offend you, or have you ever seen them, and how do they make you feel?
Well, no. The only movie that I ever went to see was Schindler's List. I saw that movie. I did see Choice. I didn't see that. And there's a movie out there in which people think is a true movie, The Striped Pajamas, but it isn't. And I shared it. It's not a true story. I mean, and yet it's a very good story, but it's not a true story. And there's some other ones I really don't know. When I see the Holocaust, I really don't want to see it because I already saw it. That's it? Yes.
When you came to the United States, where did you live before?
I lived in New York City, lived in Washington Heights. You had a lot of survivors in Washington Heights. And of course, another thing I got to bring up, which when I came to England, to the United States, I spoke like an English, with an altogether different accent. So the kids weren't very nice to me. So I'm sure you guys don't do this, but when you see a strange boy or a girl coming into school, make sure nobody bullies them, make sure they're nice to each other. And, it's so much easier for the student. Yes?
What do you do now?
I'm retired now. Now I enjoy speaking and sharing my life. And sharing with people that, yes, the Holocaust did exist. Like it was mentioned earlier, we had 6 million Jewish people killed. 1.5 million were children. And I'm a very lucky kid because I really shouldn't be here. And there's a lot of denial out there. And it's mind-boggling. Even the Germans admit to it, So.
Thank you.
Yes?
As a child, seeing all the death and the destruction around you, how did you adjust? Like when you got out of that situation, how long did it take for you to?
Well, it took me a long time because my drinking really messed me up. It wasn't something that, you see it and you can just forget about it. I mean, it stayed with you. I still have dreams occasionally. And sometimes I lay in bed and I say, I really shouldn't be here. But it took time. It took time. There was a lot of pain, a lot of rage, a lot of hate. And today I don't hate anybody. I used to hate people. But the only person, if you hate somebody, the other person that you hate, they have the slightest idea that you hate them. They go along their merry way, and the only person that gets affected is you. So can you imagine how many people I hated? I hated everybody. I had to let go of all of that. I don't hate anybody. I may not like what they do or what they say, but I don't hate. And at one time I did. I was a good hater. Yes?
You mentioned that your birth certificate is in the Holocaust Museum. Which one?
I'm from Poland. I was only born once.
Some of the things you described, your animalistic behavior, things like that. Do you think they helped you survive as long as you did?
Well, you talk about the cat?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Oh, sure. And I had to be on that handle every day. I mean, if I wasn't on that handle, I wasn't getting an extra potato.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
You needed powers to survive. You needed the aggression to survive.
I need it.
You made it.
I would have never made it because, that's right. I mean, I fought to be on a handle so I could go to the kitchen, and if I got a rotten potato, I was happy. And And a lot of kids gave up, and they would hit me back. Most likely they did, but I was a bit stronger. Maybe it was the cod liver oil of it. Yes.
Have you gone back to Poland or Germany?
I've gone back to Germany. I spoke at Ravensbrück. I haven't gone back to Poland yet, no. They still don't like us. You know, sorry to say, even though with Pope John saying, you know, be nice to each other, respect each other, the hatred is just passed on from generation to generation. And you can only blame the older parents. I spoke in Germany at Humboldt University. I didn't speak the whole university. I spoke to about maybe 200-300 students. You know, Humboldt University is very, very nice. And we were talking about Ravensbrück, and most of them never went to Ravensbrück, but some of them were going to go. And they say to me that even though we were raised by loving parents, when we ask our grandfathers, what did you do, they don't answer us. You know, most people are nice. I met some not nasty, some are nice and some are not nice. Yes?
To acknowledge that you said you became successful, you were able to have an apartment in New York City, and now you're retired. What did you find, what was your work? What happened?
Oh, I sold insurance.
Uh-huh.
Insurance. I sold cars, I sold insurance, I sold homes. I sold insurance. I was working, drinking, and I was a functioning alcoholic. I really was. And I never drank on a Saturday. I never drank on a Sunday. I would never drink at home. I only drank in bars.
You had children?
No. I stepchildren. Yes.
Do you see any parallels in the United States now to pre-World War II Germany?
Oh, I don't know. I don't look at that.
You were here, you were there.
No. I was
You don't remember?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I can't remember. If I told you a story, I wouldn't know. I was 6 years old. Do I see what's going on in this country?
Yeah.
Listen, with all the bad things, all the crazy things that go on in this country, there is no place like the United States of America. Italy, which is very nice. Israel is very nice. I was in Israel in 1956 for the first time. The Arabs were still shooting at you, and they were still occupied by you in Jerusalem. And England, I don't care where you go. This is the place. And so we're very lucky to be in this country, believe me. Believe me. Yes?
Did you serve in the Army?
Yes. Guess what happened? She knows my whole story. So when I enlisted in the Army, I said, please send me to Korea. Nobody wanted to go to Korea, right? So they sent me to Germany. It was very, very hard. The beer was very good. And I got a little trouble here and there, you know. Also, so yes.
What's the most fun you've had in America since?
The most fun that I've had. Oh, I don't know. I had a lot of fun. I don't know. I think the best thing that happened to me in America was meeting my wife. It's a funny thing. I first met her in 1971, accidentally, you know. And then I was reintroduced to her after I was told that Montrose, if you ever drink again, you're going to die. My liver was a little bit sick. And so I met this woman again. I had no idea that I met her 6 years before. Now she had red hair before she had long black hair, you know. And, she was very instrumental in my recovery. She would never give up. So those are nice days. What happened to the little baby was born in the camp, they killed it right away. So when you arrived, like for example, you went to Auschwitz, which was the main killing camp. You would come off the cattle car, you would stand in line, and if you were young and strong, you went to the right. And you got a number, and then you lived. If you went to the left, you went right into the shower room and into the furnace. I had a friend of mine in Columbus, Ohio, that he's passed away. But he arrived in Auschwitz with his mom and dad. They went to the left, he went to the right. he saw his parents go into the gas chamber and into the, so it's a little baby. Anybody says that they're a baby in a camp, it's no possible way. First of all, the mother, if she had a baby, she has to have milk. And they gave you maybe 400 calories a day. That's not enough to make milk. And they weren't giving, you know what they call it? What's that milk you get in the stores? Formula. What it was like in the ghetto? Well, I was 6 years old, 5 years old. I really can't tell you. All I can tell you that the living conditions weren't very good. The food was horrible. I mean, they gave you potatoes. They gave you no meat. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I would just go, you know, everything nowadays is on Google. You know, I'm sorry. I just don't know. I don't remember.
I mean, I've read a lot of what's out there about you.
Yeah, my little Polish brain doesn't remember all that. Yeah.
How old was your father when this happened?
My father was 81, and when he died, he thought he was back in the camps. So so basically that's how my father lived. You have a lot of survivors, not all of them. They still, I don't know. They're still very, very sick, and they lost everything and everybody, and they don't speak English. They speak with an accent, you know. Like my father spoke 8, 9 languages, but he didn't speak English because in the area where he was raised, and when he went to university, they never taught him English. So when he came to this country, he had to go to school. He went to school at night, and he got a job that paid him $50 a week. 1949. Yeah. Yes?
So after you left your mother/aunt, like when you
Yes.
lived in England, did you all ever reconnect? Were you ever able?
Well, I went to see her in Israel in '56, and then she came to the United States. We did not have a very close relationship. It could be me, maybe it was me, maybe it was her, I don't know. We weren't that close. None of us stayed that close, and nobody would talk. Nobody would say a word about anything. I mean, I don't even know the exact date that my real mother died. My father would never tell me. He wouldn't even talk about his first wife. He wouldn't talk about anything. So I had a very bad relationship with him. On my part, it was also my doing too. Yes?
Can you pronounce your name one more time?
Which one? First one.
The one you were born with.
Nathan Stefan, S-D-F-A-N, Rosenberg, R-O-Z-E-N-B-E-R-G, Rosenberg. No, not an S, a Z. Yes?
You went to England, and what happened when you lived in England?
Well, I first of all, I had to learn how to speak English, which was very, very hard. The kids made fun of me because I didn't speak English. I drank here and there a little bit. In school in London, and you said something that wasn't right. The headmaster, he would take a ruler or a cane to you, and whack you. And that was okay. It was all right. I had an aunt that wasn't very nice to me. Yeah.
Now, your family?
I don't have any family. I have a cousin. My cousin that is here now, she's in from London. She's the one that I lived with in London. She was born in London. So she sees me like once a year, twice a year. You know, she comes on Thanksgiving. But otherwise, my family's dead. They're all dead. I'm the last survivor of the family. Big family. Yes?
What would you say gave you the will to fight to survive?
I don't know. Some people have it and some people don't. It's just there. And my will was to survive. And I had many experiences that I'm here. It's meant for me to be here, like it's meant for me to be here today to share the story with you, share my life with you. I thank you for coming, and you know, the Holocaust existed. We have people out there that say it didn't exist. There was just now a woman in Germany who's been in denial for God knows how many years. You know, she still denies the Holocaust existed. And you have people here in this country also that feel that way. It's stupid, you know. I'm not telling you.